Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're going to flip a switch without even thinking about it. The light will flood the room, and that's it. You won't even notice, but stop and think about that for a second. That switch didn't exist for almost all of our species' history. For more than 300,000 years, when the sun went down, the world simply went dark. Real darkness. The kind where you can't see your own hand in front of your face. And here's the strange part. Almost no human alive today has ever truly experienced that. Every single one of your ancestors spent nearly half their life in that blackness. For most of that time, they didn't even have candles. Just the black sky, the stars, and whatever fire they could keep burning. So what did they do during all those hours? The answer changes quite a bit of what we think we know about sleep, about storytelling, and about what it means to be human. And one of those things, an entire phase of the human mind, you've probably never experienced, but your body still remembers how to do it. I'll get to that. Let's start with fire, because fire is the reason all of this is possible. The oldest evidence of humans handling fire shows up in places like Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa. Exactly how long our ancestors controlled fire on a regular basis is still debated among researchers. Some clues go back 1,000,000 years, and routine, undeniable use becomes clearer around a few 100,000 years ago. But the important point is something else. Fire didn't just serve to keep us warm. Fire reorganized the entire human day. Before fire, we were just like any other primate. The sun went down, you climb a tree or squeeze into some protected corner and stay still because moving around in the dark meant becoming food. Our eyes are terrible in the dark, far worse than the predators that hunted us. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, they all saw just fine. Fire flipped that equation on its head. A campfire creates a zone of protection around it. Predators tend to avoid getting close to flames, and it's not a romantic exaggeration. Anthropologists who study hunter-gatherer groups observe today that moving away from the fire at night is, in fact, more dangerous. But fire gave humans something they'd never had before. Something that, over thousands of generations, changed our species. Extra hours. Think about it like this. Before fire, the workday ended at sunset. About 12 hours in summer, 8 in winter. And that was it. Fire suddenly added 2, 3, 4 usable hours to every single day, and what humanity did with that time is fascinating. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a study years in the making. She recorded conversations of the Juhwansi, a people from the Kalahari Desert, who still live in a way very close to humanity's original way of life. What she found was striking. During the day, about 80% of conversations were practical. Who's going hunting where? Which plans are ready? Complaints, logistics, negotiation. Daytime talk was work. But at night, around the fire, everything changed. More than 80% of conversations turned into stories. Tales of people in faraway places, adventures, myths about the origin of the world, jokes that had the entire camp laughing. Wiesner argues that it was there, in the firelight, that human culture was born. The campfire was the first theater, the first classroom, the first church. It was where humans learned to think beyond the present moment, to imagine things that didn't exist yet. That's where we became who we are. But the night wasn't just storytelling around the fire. There was something else happening, something science only rediscovered in the last few decades. And it suggests you're sleeping the wrong way. You weren't built to sleep the way you sleep today. In 2001, historian Roger E. Kirsch published something that shook sleep science. He had spent years digging through old records and found a pattern nobody expected. Hundreds of references spread across centuries. Prayer books, court records, diaries, medical manuals, ordinary people's letters, even passages from Homer's Odyssey. They all mentioned the same thing, a first sleep and a second sleep. Before the industrial era, people didn't sleep in one single block. They'd go to bed shortly after nightfall, sleep about 4 hours, and then wake up. They'd stay awake for an hour or two in the middle of the night, and then go back to sleep for another 4 hours until dawn. That wasn't insomnia. That was normal. That's how every human on the planet slept for thousands of years. And what did they do during that waking window in the middle of the night? All sorts of things. A 16th century French doctor recommended that couples conceive children during exactly that window. People would visit neighbors, interpret their dreams while they were still fresh. They'd pray, write, or simply lie in the dark, thinking. Manuals from that era said it was the best time to reflect. A calm mind, a quiet world. And here's the detail that gives you chills. For centuries, historians read these references and translated first sleep as something else entirely, because they simply couldn't imagine that people had ever slept in a way so different from ours. Then science stepped in and confirmed all of it. In an experiment that's probably the most unsettling part of this entire story, psychiatrist Thomas Wehr ran a simple experiment. He took a group of volunteers and removed all artificial light from their lives. For a month, they lived through 14 hours of darkness every night, roughly what it would have been like for an ancestor before fire stretched out the night. Within a few weeks, everyone fell into the exact same pattern: 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of calm wakefulness, 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody told them to do this. Nobody suggested it. Their bodies simply did it, as if an ancient program had been waiting in there the whole time, buried under centuries of electric light. And there's more. Wehr measured the volunteers' hormones during that middle-of-the-night wakefulness. They were in a state different from any normal wakefulness. Their brains produced elevated levels of prolactin, the same hormone linked to states of deep relaxation. They described a feeling of peace, almost meditative. It wasn't a gap in their sleep. It was a state of consciousness all its own, a state most modern humans have never experienced. So what killed that state? The answer is simpler than it seems, and it's probably in your hand right now: light. In the 17th century, cities started installing street lamps. Paris was one of the first under Louis XIV who wanted to reduce crime. London followed soon after. The night, which had been a place of fear and danger, was slowly becoming navigable. Then came cheaper candles, then gas lamps in the 19th century. And then, in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the electric light bulb. Within a single generation, the night that humans had known for 300,000 years simply ended. And there's a curious fact almost nobody knows. The word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu. It literally means cover the fire. In medieval cities, a bell would ring at night signaling it was time to cover or put out the fire. The night was meant to be dark. The night was meant for sleeping. Walking the streets after dark was suspicious. In many medieval cities, without a lantern, it was even illegal. The night belonged to criminals and to the supernatural. And so we conquered the night, flooded it with light, and called it progress. But look at what we lost along the way. The modern human is exposed to artificial light, on average, for 7 to 8 hours after sunset. And that light, especially the blue light from screens, suppresses melatonin production, the hormone that regulates sleep. Your body can't tell a light bulb apart from the sun. When light hits your retina at 11 at night, your brain thinks it's daytime. It delays melatonin. It fragments your sleep. It disrupts a rhythm that took millions of years to form. Researchers found that just 1 week of camping with zero artificial light is enough for people's internal clock to reset by almost 2 hours. The body starts producing melatonin again at nightfall, not hours later. 7 days is all it takes for 300,000 years of programming to resurface. And this is where everything connects. That calm, reflective state between the first and second sleep, the one Wehr's volunteers described as meditative, barely exists anymore for most people. In its place, we have insomnia, and we treat it like a flaw. But what if it isn't a flaw? What if waking up at 2 in the morning and lying there in the dark isn't your body failing? What if it's your body remembering something? Something it was built to do? For 300,000 years, your ancestors spent their nights in a rhythm that science is only now starting to understand. They gathered around the fire and told stories that built civilizations. They slept in 2 phases, with a window of quiet in between, and they lived in a darkness so complete that the Milky Way wasn't something you drive to a national park to see. It was simply the sky. We traded all of that for a light switch, and maybe you don't need much to find a small piece of that again. Some night, before you go to sleep, try turning everything off. No screen, no light. Let the dark be dark. Your body might just remember something we forgot we knew. If this story moved you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and just lay there thinking? Maybe you never had insomnia. Maybe you were just doing what humans have always done,